Hi there, my name is Lauren, and I am going to be discussing my thoughts and insight on Sally's case if I were her school counselor. The first thing that I would do upon initial meeting is just ask, a general statement if this was an academic concern or something else, just so I can gauge where the conversation is going. This would give me a good entryway in going over informed consent, stating that anything in terms of the possibility of someone being harmed, whether it's herself or someone else, has the potential to be broken confidentiality-wise. So that would be my gateway to going over informed consent. I would then allow her to take the floor and explain her concerns to me. And the first thing that would stand out to me here is the depressive state with the lack of interest, as well as her thoughts of suicide, even though there was no attempt. The first thing I would do is make sure I would go over a risk assessment, a suicide risk assessment, an SRA, just to gauge the actual level of threat. And of course, to see if there's any specific event that correlates with the onset of this depressive state. There may be something going on that specifically aligns with this onset, or it could be something that's been ongoing and she's just reaching her breaking point. So it's definitely important to do a thorough assessment, even if the initial risk seems very low. And then, of course, the last thing that I would have to delve into a little bit is her level of fear with her father. So, of course, if there is a presumed or definite threat that is high level, I would absolutely have to break confidentiality legally to get her the help that she needs. Maybe, refer her to a professional like a psychologist to do a more thorough assessment to gauge that level. At this point, I would, of course, go over informed consent with her parents, but I ethically would not discuss the suicide risk just yet. At this point, I wouldn't be able to send Sally home if there was a high level of threat. I would have to send her to go get more thoroughly assessed, as that's out of my premises in regards to credentials and licensure. So ethically, I wouldn't be inclined to move forward with a further assessment, but I would try to investigate a little bit further on her fear level with her father, because ethically I do have a duty to protect the student. So one way of protecting the student, of course, is breaking confidentiality to get her further treatment if needed, but it's also protecting her from her parents if there is any form of abuse. Okay, so while I would go over informed consent that I am speaking with their child, I wouldn't necessarily break confidentiality on the suicide risk just yet, especially if she was already in the hands of another professional. I would absolutely reach out to teachers and just ask generally how Sally was doing in class. This doesn't break confidentiality, and it really is just a general question to see if maybe they have any insight or thoughts that I would be able to confidentially explore myself. Okay, so there's a couple of things going on here legally. Like I said, I would have to absolutely break, confidentiality and either refer her out or do a further assessment, while also monitoring her, as well as protecting her ethically from possible abuse. Okay, if there is no abuse, that is prevalent in the home, I then would go further in explaining what is going on with Sally. So there are a few things here to consider. As a teacher for the past 8 years, I'm a high school math teacher in an urban district, and there is so much horrific home lives going on in my district that you really, really have to be careful when speaking to parents. Even just in terms of speaking about academics, I have some students who are so fearful of even a good phone call at home that there is a very fine line between legal and ethical duties as a school counselor. But those would be my steps. I'm glad to hear some feedback. Thank you so much.